I do really like the way he just goes from smiling, shit-eating grin to like absolute bastard.
He's got
a coin.
Absolutely, he's literally got a split personality. I think the first killing that he does, he's got the blood on one side of his face, and he does a sly look to the left or the right, and his other side of his face is completely
like Two-Face, isn't it?
Yeah, it's completely clean and dry and chiseled, and you're like, yeah, I get this.
As round as a plate, it's episode 98. Hello, film fans. Thank you for listening today. In the studio, our guests are Corrina.
Hi.
Sarah. And Kobe.
Hello.
And we're reviewing the 2000 film American Psycho.
As always, guys, we have all the show notes online at flixwatcher.tv for all the episodes, so please come and visit us there. Of course, join us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod, and please come to iTunes, rate us, and subscribe.
All films featured in the podcast were available to stream on Netflix UK at the time of recording, and please be aware there will be spoilers and some language that may offend. Hello and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. In our studio today, our guests are Sarah and Corrina. If you would like to say hello to our lovely listeners and tell them about the podcast that you do.
Hi, my name's Corrina and I am the co-host for the Picturehouse Podcast, along with my co-host Sam Clements and my other resident podcaster sitting beside me right here, who is now going to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I help with the Picturehouse podcast, as well as marketing manager of Picturehouse Central, and I run a blog called Movies on Weekends, and we make films too.
So tell us a bit about that side of things.
For about 5 years now, I've been running small blogs. It first started off as the very punny titled Cookie Onscreen.
Which happens to be your Twitter account name.
Yes, because my last name's Cook. So it's a pun of cookie and cream. Cookies and cream? I can't remember what it was a pun of. It's been so long ago.
Cookies and cream.
Cookies and cream.
Also a great 112 song.
And basically we started off just doing film reviews and film press and film blogging. It used to be my university project. And then it sort of evolved, and then one day I was like, I want to make films too. So now we start doing short films. We do promotional videos for some companies and some fun sketches and skits, and then we also do podcasts, and we also live in a world of film, which is where I'm happy to stay.
Corrina.
So I work for Picturehouse Cinemas as comms manager, as well as doing the podcast with Sam and Sarah here. But I also run and I'm the founder of the Bechdel Test Fest, which is a ongoing series screening films that pass the Bechdel test. If anyone doesn't know what that is, it's a very simple 3-step measure to say if a film has 2 named women who have a conversation with each other about something other than a man. Very easy test to pass, but very many films actually fail. And it's all about finding the positive representations of women on screen.
I mean, if a film passes the Bechdel test, it's not necessarily a marker of quality, is it? Because there's some...
Absolutely not. Yeah. No, it's a bit of fun, and by no means is it a seal of approval or a mark of respect as such, but it's a talking point and it's a lot of fun to have with. And I think the fact that it is also a little problematic does make it a great topic of conversation about how we look at film and the representations of the people on screen and how important that is.
Yeah, because I think it's one of those things that shouldn't just even be a thing. It should just be like...
It shouldn't. I mean, it's actually a very old test. It's now 34 and a half years old. It was inspired by Alison Bechdel, who was doing a comic strip called Dykes to Watch Out For, and she did a strip where there was these 2 women walking down the street having a date, and one says to the other, let's go to the cinema, and the other one says, thing is, I only go to the movies if the film we're going to watch passes this rule. And the rule is the Bechdel test. So it originates from the comic strip called The Rule. And then somebody must have seen this and thought, you know what, that's actually an interesting metric. I wonder how many films actually pass this test. And thus the Bechdel test was born.
Fantastic. Does American Psycho pass the Bechdel test?
No.
Okay. I don't think it did.
No.
But it's interesting actually, because to pay mind to the Bechdel Test Fest as such, I actually screened American Psycho as part of my festival, because we're always looking at representations of masculinity in the movies, because ultimately the Bechdel test is about representation of people. And I think it's unfair, it's unfair to a certain extent to totally overlook a woman's perspective of what masculinity is like. And this is a female-directed film, and it's a very interesting reimagining of a very masculine text.
So you chose American Psycho. Tell us why you chose it and a 2-minute synopsis.
So I love this film. It's hilarious. It's dark. It's wry. It's a real expose and exploration of toxic masculinity. And I think it's a really interesting one to revisit now, especially as we're looking at toxic masculinity even more. It's much more in the psyche and the language of what we're talking about now, especially with Trump's America. There are lots of references to Donald Trump and how that has infiltrated what men aspire to, both in the book, more in the book, but a few times in the film. And I think it's a really interesting period piece because it's set in the 80s, and we're looking at how things like the GQ lifestyle and the importance of a man making so much money, and where women fitted under their concerns. And yeah, I just think, and again, because it's a female-directed film and we're looking very much at masculinity through a woman's eyes, it's just so fascinating to me. And after reading the book and just looking at how a film can make, and this is one of the rare instances that a film is actually much better than the book.
Right.
Much, much better than the book.
Interesting.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. But the synopses, yes. So we have the very dashing Patrick Bateman, and we are immediately involved into his world, which is just full of wealth and unnecessarily flamboyant lifestyle. Everything's way too expensive unnecessarily. They're suited, they're booted, and they're complete arseholes, basically. They're investment bankers, and they're in New York, and they are I say they. Patrick Bateman is certainly our character, and we look into his demonic mind and how he's constantly striving for this unobtainable perfection through this through this wealth that he's been gifted from just being a very privileged American man. But essentially what we're doing here is looking at how psychotic he is. He's a psychotic person. So as well as an investment banker by day, he's also a really cruel and horrible killer by night. And he goes around making very horrific murders of homeless people. He feeds cats through ATM machines. He's an awful, awful fiance. He kills women and prostitutes and just does horrible, horrible things to people.
How many times have we seen this around the table? You said at the top of the show, Helen, came out in 2000.
You did.
How many times have you seen this?
I think I've got it on DVD, so probably 3 or 4 times, I think.
Sarah?
A lot. I once spent my birthday at the PCC watching this as double bill with Fight Club. And that was a cracking look at toxic masculinity for my birthday. It was
Did you program that yourself? Was that?
That was legitimately
the dream.
What films can I put on the screen? So I adore this film.
Yeah, I think I've seen it 3 or 4 times now. It's been a while since the last rewatch, so definitely cheers for selecting it and bringing it to our attention again. How do you think it fares now, 2000 to now?
Brilliantly. I think it's even more stark and relatable now, and I think it's a real, like I said, it's a period piece that really charts how the awfulness of that time and how this ingrained societal norms for men, white men in America, have paid off in such awful, awful ways in a time right now in 2018, and how we're kind of suffering from that still. I think it really stands up marvelously.
One of the things that shocked me the most on this rewatch is certainly in the post-Me Too era, when he was talking to his secretary, played by Chloë Sevigny, and saying, "Don't wear those clothes again. Wear high heels to make it look better." Those kind of things would have just happened all the time, and that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of talk that would have been
expected.
You what? Sorry,
it would have been expected.
It would have been almost expected, and people wouldn't have thought twice about it. But now that's like, don't do that. That's fucking dark, dude. Don't tell people what to wear because you want to make them look better for your own appeasement.
Yeah, and I think this is it. We're looking back at a time when you could just get away with this, and we are thankfully, slowly but surely, hopefully, getting to a point where that is just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable, and we're finding a voice to be able to say, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to wear what the fuck I like. But yeah, we do need these reminders of this time to chart our progress and to remind ourselves never to go back there ever again.
I adore this film for its nuances. And like I said on a previous podcast, I love a good spiral out of control. And what I love about this is how easy privileged white men can spiral. And I also love the fact that, the joke, all white men look the same. That is really enforced here, because no one knows who each other are. And it's great because it's that kind of blankness of rich business privilege.
That's a key plot point in this.
Yeah, because I thought I was just going mad. When I first started watching, it was like, wait, I thought his name was this. And then they called him something else. But that's the point. It's all just one bland
same
canvas.
Suit, same haircuts, same cars,
business
same
cards.
business cards, even though they're absolutely scrutinising every single little nuance of it.
It's my favourite scene. The fact that he can literally go, like, nearly have a mental breakdown at this guy's eggshell-coloured...
Yeah. Off-white.
Embossed.
Yeah, that one thread of sweat says so much about how much he's losing his shit.
The gritted teeth.
Yeah.
And
Show me his card.
No, it's just that really good thing of how a privileged person can snap from the littlest things that we wouldn't even necessarily care about. I mean, I have a business card. I'm not necessarily battling Corrina for a better business card because it's superfluous. It doesn't matter. But because people live on these high ivory towers.
Yeah. Ivory was probably a colour as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. They lose it when perfection is like a hairline out of it. And I think American Psycho does that really well. And also when I watched it again, I forgot how funny it was.
It's really funny.
The whole, one of the death sequences has just the greatest lead up to it.
The Huey Lewis one.
The Huey Lewis one,
Yeah.
Explain that
to be
sequence.
square.
So it's Patrick Bateman, and I can never remember the name of the guy.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto's guy. What is his name? Because it's really
Tony Allen.
Oh yeah, Paul Allen.
Paul Allen.
Hey Paul. Yeah. And basically he's around. Is it Paul's house?
It's around his own house.
Patrick's house.
Yeah. He gets him really drunk.
He gets him really drunk, and then listening to Huey Lewis in the news, which therefore means he has to break down why Huey Lewis and the News are like the best band of the 80s.
He would be a great music journalist.
Yes.
Period.
He would be so good.
The commentary on 80s music is so good.
Phil Collins.
Oh, the Phil Collins monologues. I mean,
Whitney Houston.
Oh, it is so good.
Hot takes throughout.
But whilst he's doing his hot takes, he'd make a great Twitter feed, wouldn't he?
I think there is a Twitter feed of him actually. I think there is. Anyway, sorry. Yes.
He is putting on a very dashing raincoat, and he's grabbing an axe, and he is putting down sheets.
Copies of the Style magazine.
Oh, copies of the Style magazine.
Little detail there.
And he's preparing to murder Paul, all set to Huey Lewis in the News, which makes Back to the Future darker.
It does do. It's just such a great thing, because he's almost like moonwalking and skipping around the room, skipping around his apartment.
Yeah.
With his raincoat.
With his raincoat on.
Because he doesn't want to get rubbed blood on him. He doesn't. I mean, there's no way that massacre of this one person would have not caused an absolute mess. And those few pieces of Style magazine on the paper on the carpet were never gonna
protect it
at all. Never gonna protect it. But we can come to whether it really happened or not is later on. But it's an incredibly funny but brutal scene.
And it's hip to be square. So if that comes on with me and my friends on a night out, we will dance like Patrick Bateman. Do the twist.
Do the twist in the hip.
Yeah.
Bring out a fake axe.
Yeah, you could do the imaginary axe dance.
The imaginary axe
dance. Did you bring that in?
Just shouting, hey Paul on the dance floor. Hey Paul. Try and get a reservation at Dorsia now.
Yeah.
And this is one of the bits of privilege, because the restaurant he ends up going to with the lady he's having an affair with looks stunning. Absolutely stunning anyway, but because he wasn't the Dorsia, it was like the worst thing in the world to him. And
these things matter to him, and that's kind of the point. All these fine details that we, as people that don't live in that world, are not that privileged to be able to enjoy or to care about. So, you know, in our world, we'll be like, okay, well, great, I had a Nando's, it was brilliant. But whereas these people, they're just like, unless you have to fight tooth and nail to get that reservation, then, and it's about being seen. So it's about being seen in those places that you had to get the reservation for. And they're not even eating much. They're having these like little morsels of food. We've got very exotic names.
The sea urchin ceviche.
That's it. The sea urchin ceviche, which I must say sounds nice. But, you know, I'm never going to eat a seafood.
It's non-existent.
Sounds like a shampoo.
Right? But yeah, I think this is what's so wonderful about the opening sequence and the scene setting from the get-go. You've got this food that it's not going to fill you up. No. It's very empty. And that's exactly what their whole world is about. It's very empty. All the scenes are quite vacant. Like Patrick Bateman's house is just white with some slats and there's lots of shadows, but he doesn't own anything. He's got a bit of art. He's got a rowing machine. He's got a DVD player where he watches porn whilst doing his rowing boat thing. But he's a very vacant character, and everything about the scene setting and the design demonstrates that.
I think this was an 18 when it first came out. Do you think it'll be re-rated now? Because it's actually not that. We don't actually see the acts going in. So a lot of 18s nowadays, you see some properly brutal stuff, and you don't actually really see that.
It was even higher than an 18 to a rating that I didn't even know existed. And
really?
They had to, and then they had to cut off a scene, and I don't know what that scene was. There's a couple of scenes looking around on YouTube, actually deleted scenes, but when you watch them on YouTube, you're like, yeah, that gave it, that added nothing. I'm glad that wasn't in there, but it's a very tight movie. It's very good, but
this is just, I think it's an hour and 40. This
NC-17. I don't know what that is, but you guys
that's in the
know.
States,
right? Yeah, it's a state rating, and it had to be cut in order to get an 18.
To be rated R.
Yes. I mean, you do see blood. The chainsaw scene. So I think it still would be an 18. There's quite a
it still would be.
The C word as well, which I always think is an automatic high rating.
Yeah, and there's there's a lot of graphic sex in it still. So yeah, I would say it's still an 18.
Okay,
and deserves it. So
I think the violence is still. I've seen equal things, I think, in a 15, because you don't actually see, like I say, you don't see the axe going into the head, but you see the splash of the blood. The chainsaw falls down. You don't actually see it viscerating anything. You just see the kind of aftermath.
And I think that's what's interesting about Mary Harron's adaptation of this story, in that the book is so much more visceral and so much more violent, and so there's a monotony in how much this violence is being spewed out, literally. But with Mary's American Psycho, she's taken it off screen, because I think any director who's doing thrillers or horrors knows that your imagination is so much worse than anything you can put on screen. So if you just plant the seed of something horrific, they will think of it. And I think for that sense it worked, because I found myself, even watching it again this time, shutting my eyes and then opening them again and be like, oh, nothing actually happened. It was all just in my head of what was happening. And I think that's a real sense of a good director. Trusting the audience.
Absolutely. Should we talk about some of the people who featured in this in 2000? Some of the features.
Can we talk about Christian Bale? I mean, I love Christian Bale.
Well, one gets to Christian Bale, but I think there's a lot of other people in there. We'll definitely talk about Christian Bale, because obviously it's a big start role for him. But there's a lot of people in here who went on to do other decent films and other projects. Reece Witherspoon, for example.
Mm-hmm. She's excellent.
Literally had no idea who she was the first time I saw this. Justin Theroux was one of the Jared Leto.
Yep.
So it has
Chloë Sevigny.
Chloë Sevigny,
who's always great.
And one of the people who I couldn't place him, but the guy who he then strangles in the toilet, Paul Ross. He's a guy called Paul Ross.
Yes.
Who went on to he plays Gavin Belson in Silicon Valley, but also directed Captain Fantastic last year.
Oh, I'm like, Paul Ross. Like, why should I know that name? I've never. But yeah, I know. Yeah.
Matt Ross.
Matt Ross.
Matt Ross. That's the guy. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's great.
Little cameo, but he really adds to the expose of the what's the word? Oh my God, what is the word? Homophobia.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. There's a real element of homophobia in there as well, which kind of is at one with this idea of what masculinity is in the 80s. And I think that is his key to purport that narrative. Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe, of course.
He's great in it.
William Dafoe, he's great.
So it is a cast. I think we kind of.
I mean, it was really, really well cast. I mean, I think at the time everyone was
covering up.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't.
Well, I mean,
that much of a surprise.
It's interesting the cast because
Close to when you come out kids at that point.
Yeah,
and Reece Witherspoon had done the film she did with
Legally Blonde. Had she done Legally Blonde yet?
She'd done Cruel Intentions.
Cruel Intentions.
Yes,
of course.
Yeah, she'd done that. So they were all sort of on the radar.
They were all up and coming. But
Jared Leto would have
done
been My So-Called Life.
So this is post Fight Club as well.
Post Fight Club.
Yeah. But in order for... Mary Hannon she had her vision and she really wanted this cast, and she knew that she wanted Bateman to be played by
Christian Bale.
But it was originally... they were enforcing that it was going to be Leonardo DiCaprio. And because she said... no, I don't think that he's the right person for this part, she actually stepped off the whole project.
Okay.
Yeah, it went through a lot of problems and changes because of that.
Yeah, so they got David Cronenberg was going to direct it.
Can you imagine David Cronenberg's American Psycho?
Yeah.
I think that's just Videodrome now. Like, it's kind of the same.
But you watch this now, I mean, probably at the time everyone was like, yeah, well, Leo could have been in it, but... watching it now, no.
Because he wouldn't have put the effort in. Because when he did The Beach, for example, one big story about The Beach was that he was overweight and he couldn't get the weight down to look like someone who's like not traveling. So to be in the kind of physical shape, I mean, let's talk fully about Christian Bale now, but he fucking steps in 100% into his roles, doesn't he? Maybe not as much as...
Yeah, to a psychotic degree. Yeah. He's just like, I'm going to be this person, which is quite worrying.
Just trying to think of whether he did anything drama or thrillery, because he was a kid star in the 90s and the late 80s. Like, he was in Empire of the Sun, Pocahontas.
Yeah,
was it Pocahontas?
He's the voice of the guy, I can't remember his name, Tom or something, who actually shoots Kukuam.
Okay.
And is John Smith's best friend and says stuff really badly, like, they don't want to fight. And he's in Newsies. Like, he's in this Disney musical about newspaper boys.
Okay.
So he was like a childhood star, and I can't think of the film that transitions him from this to this, from that to this.
Well, yeah, and this is it. I mean, Mary Hannon knew that she wanted him and that he had that blankness that was needed for this role to play this very vacant, violent, horrible person. And it's interesting because I think if you're looking at Leonardo DiCaprio, I can see why they would have wanted him. If you look at from Wall Street towards the end, he's actually playing somebody who is as psychotic as Bateman. But yeah, I think this is perfect the way it is. And like I said, Christian Bale. For me, Christian Bale invented the meme. Like that whole. Do you remember when it came out? And he had a hissy fit on somebody on set
on Terminator.
Yeah, was that on Terminator? Was that?
Yeah, it was on Terminator Salvation, was it?
Yeah, so that's like alluding to how in depth he gets into his characters.
This is like before, and then he went to Machinists, which is...
Yeah, he made a few more interesting ones slightly before then. So he also did Equilibrium and Reign of Fire as well. And he was in Captain Corelli's Mandolin and the remake of Shaft. So he had kind of a very strange period before The Machinist, and then that kind of really kicked it off with obviously Batman, The Fighter and The Prestige, etc.
Yeah, Prestige is
that's a good film.
Yeah, that's one film. I've only seen that once. I need to see that again multiple times.
Same with Equilibrium. I think no one brings up Equilibrium. I love Equilibrium.
I've never seen that.
He made some very, very, very interesting movies in quite a short space of time. But not so much now. He's kind of gone a little bit.
I guess The Fighter was the last big one, was it?
The Big Short.
Yeah, The Big Short.
Nominated for an Academy Award.
I loved that. That was good.
I hated The Big Short.
Really?
Yeah, I've never been so bored in a film.
I left so angry. If a film gives me an emotion, I'm like, yeah, this has worked in some way.
Yeah, because he played the kind of...
He was the one who saw it.
He was the one that saw it and played the drums, but it's kind of like nonchalantly and super intelligent, wasn't he? Yeah. Okay.
The only character I really loved in Big Short was Steve Carell's character. And I think what made me mad, and don't get me wrong, I love dark characters and bad characters, but there was just not a redeemable quality in any of them apart from Steve Carell. And these were real people who screwed over a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I found myself going, oh, I don't care. And that really like set me off. I don't think, has he been in anything of it since The Big Short?
He's got a few, but I don't think he really kind of hits the strides that he had sort of in this kind of era a little bit.
I forgot about Hostiles. That's the one he did this year with Rosamund Pike.
Oh, right.
That's phenomenal. It's very small indie Western release, and he's brilliant in it.
I think even this is his film, isn't it? If he hadn't done American Psycho, it wouldn't.
He owns it.
Yeah,
he's perfect.
And I don't think Batman Begins is a great film. He's done lots of great films, but this is for me, even though I haven't seen Hostiles or Equilibrium, I can't see it being much better than this.
Yeah, no, he's perfect, and he got the satire, which is really important to Mary. And I mean, look at his face; it's symmetrical. Everything is quite spookily perfect.
Yeah, he does really get that, the kind of satire which most people missed when it came out.
Exactly.
They just got so wrapped up in the violence and the book and everything that it didn't really do very well. Not many people saw it.
It did not. No, it got a lot of. So it was it was at Sundance, and it was very anticipated, and then it came out and everybody was like, what the hell was that? This is a really violent film. It had a lot of feminist activists against it, because on paper as well, it's essentially this man going through life killing women and prostitutes and poor people. But once you watch it and once you understand the context of it, you're looking through a very satirical look at men and how bad they are. So it's actually a very feminist film.
People took it too seriously.
Yeah.
And it was like not intended like that in any way. And if you're taking it too seriously, then you kind of need to think about yourself a little bit. And obviously, if you're not getting the jokes, then maybe you're part of it.
Well, I think this is going to tie into my recommendability score, because I think there's plenty of people who will just take it at face value and say, there's blood coming out, he's stabbing people who are homeless, he's throwing chainsaws at women. This is a bad guy. Why is this film even being made?
I think it gets brought up a lot because people talk about Fight Club, and I kind of want to stop people doing this, so I'm going to give you a big shout out of, if a guy's favourite film is Fight Club or American Psycho, you should run away from them. It's like, but these are my favourite films because they are satirical look at toxic masculinity. Like, if they want that as an imprint for their lives, then sure, run away. If any guy's like, I love American Psycho because that's who I want to be, then go. But if they're like, it's my favourite film because, it breaks down toxic masculinity in a satirical way, it's funny and dark and humorous, and Christian Bale's amazing, then, you can keep them around because they're really good. They know their films.
Yeah, if they say this is my favourite film, you just got to go, why? Hold up. Why? then we can do this.
I think it's about time to head into the scores.
Let's head to the scores. So these are not painted yet. Maybe they will be one day. Maybe they won't, but please don't steal them. And they are all out of 5. If you wish to go to a decimal place, you can. You can have a 0, but no minuses. And we'll start with you, Corrina, because it's your film, with the recommendability score.
5. That's why I'm here. Absolutely 5. It's great. It's funny. It's satirical. It's an interesting way of how you can reimagine something that has been so misunderstood. It's a female director, and obviously that's always something that I'm trying to champion here, that we should be looking at films through a female lens and how multifaceted those lenses are. And here is a film about men, but from a woman. And I just think it's got so many interesting ways to enter it and enjoy it and observe it and unpick it, and ultimately it's also just a fun film if you like that kind of thing.
Sarah?
5, absolutely. This is one of my favourite films of all time. I would probably want to watch it again with You Were Never Really Here, because I think that's another different female view on masculinity.
Lynn Ramsey.
Yeah, and a killer, but on the different end of the American Psycho spectrum, like a gritty, unpolished anti-hero versus the polished. I think
you are given a bit more empathy in that film, whereas American Psycho, you have no ends.
An abject. He's got a definite reason as to why he's going down this war path.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they'd make
for next birthday, Fight Club, American Psycho, You Were Never Really Here.
I am just going to watch films about men spiraling out of control as told by women. I think that's my aim. I think that's a good...
Let's talk.
Let's do it. It's a Picturehouse strand. Right. Men on the edge. Men on the verge of a breakdown.
We've just made it. There we go. Men on the edge.
Okay.
Helen.
I'm going to go high, but not quite that high. I'm going to go 4.5. I'm a big fan of this film. And I'd kind of forgotten how good it is and how funny it is as well. And it is quite a good double bill with Fight Club, especially if you like Jared Leto, but two interesting films. I mean, it is, it's just really good. And it's aged really, really well. And it's got some great performances in, and it's great.
I'm going to go 4.3, I reckon. I was so surprised. I thought it was, I don't know how to say it. I was really surprised. I was more put off by the kind of comments he made to the women behind their backs and even to the faces than I was about the violence.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the fact that, and this is why, films like this need to be made, and also people talk about films showing people being subjugated and stuff, but it needs to be made because we need to show that's how things were and they're not acceptable.
But also kind of not that much has actually changed, really.
Well, you'd hope that's perhaps part of the thing, isn't it? So 4.3. Just because people I know will.
I mean, it's not for everyone, is it?
No, it's not the kind of thing.
It's not watch with Granny or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Pick your sofa buddies wisely on this one.
I do really like the way he just goes from smiling, shit-eating grin to like absolute bastard in
he's got
a coin.
Absolutely, he's literally got a split personality. I think the first killing that he does, he's got the blood on one side of his face and he does a sly look to the left or the right, and his other side of his face is completely
like Two-Face, isn't it?
Yeah, it's completely clean and dry and chiseled, and you're like, I get this. This is two sides.
And those pictures that you had on the screen, he looks different in every single one of them.
Yeah.
Because he just is such a chameleon and able to shape his face into like sinister or fun or cool or it's just
His faces during the business card scene were fantastic. And when Matt Ross said, "Hey guys, I've got my new business card," and he looked at his like gold embossed letters, and his face was like,
well, it's his emotion at certain things like that, and then at other times it's so completely blank.
He's dead behind the eyes, and in fact, actually, that reminds me.
Shark.
He, Christian Bale actually said that he modelled his character by being inspired by Tom Cruise.
Oh, really?
Because he was watching Tom Cruise on a sofa chat show, whatnot, and he was just marvelling at how this very handsome, perfect man was saying one thing, but he was just so dead behind the eyes and this
just
big
giving nothing away
smile, and he was just like, oh my God, this is the epitome of the Hollywood superstar who's actually completely empty inside.
Do you guys get that when you're interviewing people? Do you kind of feel that sometimes they don't want to be here at all?
Not with my interviewees. Thank you very much.
I talk mostly to directors, and I love talking to directors because obviously they're the ones who they're energized with it.
Yeah.
I've actually interviewed Tom Cruise on the red carpet. So
was he dead behind the eyes?
Well, it was all very quick and rushed.
What film was that for?
Jack Reacher, Never Go Back. I had to say it really quietly.
Everybody can hear you. It's fine.
Shh. It's not. This podcast isn't going around the whole world.
It was very regimented. So red carpets are, and it was really like, ask this question, move on and move on. So I guess that's probably where. Yeah. And he had to smile. He just smiles for everything.
Yeah.
So
because his teeth are made like that.
Yeah.
He can't do anything but smile.
He can't. He's like at a funeral, and he's just there with the shades on and the big grin.
He gets all his nutrition intravenously. You can't stain those teeth. Repeat viewing score, Corrina.
I think you need to give yourself space after you've watched it, just to kind of relax, because it's a stressful watch.
So how many times have you seen this, and when was the last time you watched it before?
Because I'm not a massive repeat watcher, but I have screened this film before. I screened it at the BFI a couple of years ago, and obviously I needed to watch it then. Just name drop that one. So so I watched it a lot then, so I watched it maybe 2 or 3 times then, and I listened to the audiobook. Oh my God, if you listen to Bret Easton Ellis's book, that being spat at you whilst you're on the train
do you know who narrates it?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember, but I got it on audiobook.
like
Have you read the book?
No, I haven't.
Have you read?
I listened to it. Yeah, it was tough.
I haven't read the book.
Have you?
Only because
I've read it a few times. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A few times.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah, not for a while though. I kind of want to go back and read it again now.
I really wanted to read the book, and then the author has come out with some really horrible stuff.
Oh, he's a horrible person.
He's a really horrible
Is he?
person.
Yeah.
So it makes me want to support the film more than the book.
Yeah.
So it makes me not want to pick up his book and go.
Okay.
But it's one of my friend's favourite books, and she loves kind of American Psycho and all things American Psycho. So
It's a terrible book. It's a terrible. Well, actually, no. I'm interested to hear why you like it and for why you're.
I don't know. I think I'd never read anything like it before. And I've read quite a lot of his other books, but haven't read them recently. But they're just full of these just really horrible human beings, and you just kind of get engrossed in like the superficiality of their lives. And I think with American Psycho, because the violence is just so extreme and so like insanely out of this world, it's just like you're almost like, why am I even reading this? It's just a really bizarre experience.
Read.
You
turn
keep
the
going
page.
because you're so interested into this character because he's just so weird and dangerous and so calculated.
I think I was just lacking. For me, it was lacking any kind of poetry. It was just a series of descriptions.
Well, his writing
after the
style is a bit like that. One of the books that I can't remember which one it is. It literally starts in the middle of a sentence.
Right. Well.
That's the kind of
an
style.
Arrogance to it. It's just like, I don't even need to try. You're just going to read this awful thing that I'm going to do to this person.
Repeat viewing score.
Repeat viewing score. Okay, so sorry, I digress. So I'll give it a 3.5 because it definitely needs to be watched, but maybe once every 5 years.
Okay.
I think that's a good time stamp for
Just
in
to
betweens.
give yourself time to breathe and appreciate how well that is as a set piece for the 80s.
Yeah. Sarah.
I don't know how much of a psychopath this is going to make me sound, but I'm just going to give a context that some of my favourite films are, well, I like to call them white men with mental health issues, are basically my top 5 favourite films. Stuff like Filth, The Voices, Silence of the Lambs.
That's why you like
The Voices.
Filth. I was wondering.
Yeah,
That's the Ryan Reynolds one.
That's
Ryan
true.
Reynolds.
That's true.
I am very big on watching men, or particularly white men, have a mental breakdown.
Interesting.
So this would be a 5 for me because I studied it a lot growing up, and I spent one of my birthdays watching it, so I can't really give it anything less. That was like, yes, for me, celebrate my 25th.
Helen.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Corrina on this one. I've seen it a few times and I'll probably watch it again. I think there's just a lot to enjoy. And I think if you've seen it more than once, then you kind of know a little bit what's coming and you kind of appreciate things like the sea urchin ceviche, which obviously had not picked on
You picked
before.
it the first time, this time round.
And the
and
Donald
things-
Trump references.
Yeah, and things like that.
Watching, imagine watching that in 2000 and then watching it now in the state that we're in America and being like,
Patrick
Okay.
Bateman runs the office.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, it's horribly real.
I'm going to go for 3.5 as well. I think you definitely need to watch it again. But I concur with Corrina and Helen.
You need a gap.
Give some space. Give some space.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the next time we watch it, maybe Trump won't be president.
So next month,
Yeah.
maybe, hopefully.
Oh, don't
Don't give you hope.
give me hope.
your scores make me look more like a psychopath. Anything?
Small screen score. Has anyone here seen it in the cinema? Did anyone see it in the cinema? Corrina?
I put it on at the cinema.
Of course.
So, yeah.
I guess I was obviously thinking initial release, but yes, of course, you guys posthumously.
I didn't watch
That's
it.
not the word.
I don't even know if I was old enough.
Posthumously. No, that's not the word.
But since its
After
initial
death.
release, you put it out in the cinema.
Yes, I have, and it does benefit from a big screen outing because as I was talking about, the character development through the design of this vacant space and the shadowing shadows of all the windows and faces. I think that really benefits from seeing that up and grainy, and gives it a real texture, which the character, when it's so bland, the design actually gives it the depth you need to enjoy it cinematically and visually.
So
and the sound. I mean, Huey Lewis in the News is a great...
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins.
Yeah. But, sorry, am I doing the sound? Am I doing the score now? The score for small screen... it can be enjoyed on the small screen. I don't know. I mean, I was... three.
All right.
3.
Sarah?
Yeah, I've watched this in the cinema and I agree with everything Corrina just said. It does work best on the big screen for all those reasons. However, I spent a lot of my teen years watching this on like late night TV channels.
Film 4 type thing.
Film 4.
Yeah.
Do you like ITV2?
Or
5 with the adverts?
Really?
Oh no, don't put an advert in this.
It's
Why is it that a Film 4 advert's fine, but ITV, because I have this problem. I can deal with Film 4, that's fine, but ITV 2 or 5.
Because of the different things that you're being sold.
I don't know. I think maybe at least Film 4 seems to think about...
not the Iceland ones, thanks.
I think Film 4 maybe think about where they put the adverts, maybe.
Yeah, ITV will cut like halfway through a sentence and then go into like a Towie advert, and you're like, okay, whereas Film 4 will like waiting for the pause.
Yeah.
And then go, quick, go get a cup of tea and then come back. I still don't like watching films on Film 4. Now we've got Netflix and streaming.
It's tough, isn't it?
But the only good thing that Film 4 still does, the small films, like they may be like 1 o'clock in the morning, but they still show their foreign films and horror films.
And they do those seasons. At the moment, they've got the Ghibli season on, haven't they? Which is, I've not seen any of them in this season, but it's great that they do that. And Film 4 have introduced me to so many films that I hadn't seen before in the cinema. So
I'm pretty sure they did a Men on the Edge one, because I'm pretty sure they showed The Voices recently as well.
It's too easy. This has to have already happened, and if it hasn't, we're going to make it happen. I can't wait to leave right now. I'm going to get Men on the Edge.
I kind of fear about the kind of clientele you might get to. You, Sarah, surrounded by a lot of
white men,
dodgy men.
American Psycho is my favorite movie. I want to be him. No,
might find a husband.
might find a guy wearing a filth t-shirt, and it'll just be like romantic, like Huey Lewis and the News will come on, and Hip to Be Square, you know.
Small screen score then.
I am going to give it a 4 because this is how I found the film, and this is how I grew to love the film.
Helen?
I'm going to get a 4.5. I've only ever seen it on TV-sized screens, and I've always thought that it's worked quite well to that, as long as you don't watch it on your phone. Don't ever do that. And I don't know, I mean, I don't feel as though I've lost anything not watching it in the cinema, but then I guess you go with what you know. And that it's on Netflix as well, there to be discovered. If you haven't seen it and you're still listening and think, well, should I go and see this? Then you should, because it's there.
I'm going to give it a high small screen score. I've never seen it in cinema, and it's not as visually striking as we talked about City of God, which lost a lot of points because that is too gorgeous to. I've never seen that in the cinema, but that's something, if it came out, I need to see that like straight away. But if American Psycho was out, I probably wouldn't feel compelled to watch it because I haven't seen it in the cinema yet. So I think it does well on small screen. So 4.6 for me. Engagement score, Corrina.
It's so engaging for me. It's so engaging because you've got so many different pulse points. You've got the comedy, you've got the thrill, you've got the horror, you've got the observation of culture. So it's intelligent, and all of those things strung together are just engaging throughout.
And the score is?
And the score is...
How do you translate that into a number?
I'm going to say 4.7. There I am with the decimals.
Whoa.
I know, right? No, because I was like 5, but then nothing's a 5.
Some things are a 5.
I guess. I think
you gave this 5 recommendability.
Yes. No, yeah, you're right. Okay. Backtrack. Okay. Maybe I should just give it 5 then. It was just the very last 10 minutes of it that I think it just got too chaotic.
Right.
And I started checking out just a little bit, if I'm completely honest.
That's fine then. That's fine. Don't.
Well, that's the ambiguous ending that has a lot of people
I think
turning against it.
Yeah, the inconclusiveness that left you thinking that it was all a dream. And, you know, that's the whole annoyance of watching a film when Lost or something, which is the TV series, and everyone was annoyed about how it ended. But because it's just too easy and too lazy to say it. And they just woke up. And it was all a dream. It's like, no, it wasn't a dream. That's like stuff happened.
We've seen stuff.
I think I like the ambiguity. Not that I don't think it's a conclusion. I think that maybe you can see it that either that part, first half, was a dream, or the second half is a dream. The second half is him losing his mind.
So you definitely think he's done some killing?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. I mean, Mary herself says, I don't understand where this ambiguity has come from, because there was definitely things that happened, and there are discrepancies on certain things, like how much blood is actually released, how many times people say the wrong name, just the absurdity of the woman in the dry cleaners accepting what he's saying to her. I think a lot of the stuff is in his head, and we hear what's in his head, but that's still real.
Yeah.
To be vague, but
I always and perhaps just hoped that it was a figment of his imagination, not a dream, but how he's playing these things out in his mind and is fully cognizant of it. And when he kills Jared Leto, I meant to rewind it, because he goes into the bathroom and takes some pills out, and then you don't actually ever see what they are. I didn't see what they were.
No,
but I kind of assumed they might be antipsychotics or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think that's explained.
Yeah, so I thought that might be kind of he is actually a mentalist. So I guess maybe because a lot of the deaths are very fanatical, apart from Reggie Carthy's death, he plays a tramp at the start.
Is the most real of them all.
It's the most real of them all. So I'm hoping if it wasn't Reg, I love Reg. I hope his wasn't the only death if it was a real one.
But I do like, with what does gift us as viewers is, with the ambiguity, is the fact that we're sitting here wondering, talking about it, and it gives it that rewatchability score of going, I'm just going to go over that again, and like, what was that on the pill bottle?
Yeah.
Or, so it's a topic of conversation, and I think that's
and
great.
also the fact that even if he didn't commit them, the fact that he's imagining them and thinking of them anyway is as scary and kind of achieves it
in some form of institution.
Yeah. But I mean, he confesses as well. He does that big confession at the end, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about? Chill out." It's like, but then that plays into exactly what we're talking about with the privilege. Like, as a very rich, privileged white man in America, he can confess these things, and people will still let him get away with it.
That's like, what are you saying? You didn't do that. Don't make work for me.
Yeah, I mean, look at Donald Trump. Like, he's found guilty of doing all these horrific things to women, and
people are like, well, he couldn't have done that.
No, let's vote him in because the woman.
Yeah.
she's a woman.
When she gets her period, wah wah. I love the kind of punchline that he's all like, well, Paul, I killed Paul Allen. It's like, I just had lunch with Paul Allen.
Yeah.
And again, reinforcing the fact that no one knows, no one cares, just bullshitting each other.
Oh, so that also people might not know who Paul Allen is.
And also, he might have thought it was Paul Allen, but he might have looked like the other guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Shit. Okay, I need to think deep.
Yeah, it does make you think
Anyway,
deep.
your engagement score, Sarah.
Am I giving it a 1? No, 5. 5, straight up 5. 5, just, yeah.
Helen.
I guess it's hard. I mean, the first time round would have been a complete 5, but as I kind of know a little bit, I did a little bit of digging around on the internet, reading various things and whereabouts it fell in people's careers. So 4.5. But it is, if you haven't seen it before, then there's no way that you can't be completely engaged in it. I'm
going for a 5 here. I'm not sure I've ever given I'm not sure I've given an engagement 5 before.
I don't think you have.
But
I want to change mine to 5. Is that bad?
You can change to 5. I think just
that,
the things
that point is bothering me. Like, the OCD starts.
It was just things like the pill bottle and things like being surprised at what took me aback this time round. Just had me like, oh shit, what is actually going? Because on this rewatch, I just went into it thinking, yeah, it's all a dream for him. It's all blah 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 blah. But it was, I wouldn't say nuanced, but it was layered. I think. Overall score, guys, of 4.36875.
That's really high, that is.
Yeah, that's a high score.
Very strong showing.
My choice now.
And it's 141 minutes, so
swift,
that definitely
tight, taut.
leads into that, absolutely. We'll go to the Twitter quickly, and we always ask people before we do the record, we put tweets out. In this case, we're reviewing American Psycho with Cookies and Screen, Corrina, and from Picturehouse's podcast. Have you seen it? Give us a review. We've got a fair decent response here.
Yeah, really good.
So
the memes are great.
We'll take it round. We'll take it round the houses.
GIFs, should I say? Sorry, GIFs are great.
Corrina, do you want to take the first one?
What am I doing here? So I'm reading that out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Nerds Chatting. Movies, TV, comics at Nerds Chatting. It's the best adaptation of a novel I could have hoped for. The novel is a nasty, nasty read. This injects humour and pathos into the deeply unlikable character, and yet you still pull for him just because it, maybe, is all in his mind. Doesn't mean it isn't actually happening. Deep.
He's just probably...
he's basically summarised our last 10 minutes. We don't know if male or female, but just, summarised that. And 4 stars. 4 stars, yeah, good.
Sarah.
Laura BRD at... I'm not going to say that.
Nope, don't worry about it.
Said, I love it. And you were like, score. And she was like, 4.5.
Do you want to take the next one because that was such a short...
Yeah. What were they thinking? It was just, I can imagine how they wanted that to be announced. I gave it 4 stars and said, a sick, twisted, depraved classic with all the right elements of dark humour, societal satire and violence.
Yeah, 4 stars. Helen.
So this is from Scheitgeist at Scheitgeistpod. Hi, guys. Couldn't stomach the novel, but the film rides the knife edge between horror and comedy, and they've given it 4 knife emojis and a little Patrick Bateman gif there. Yeah, thanks for that.
That's actually a very freaky gif.
Good Twitter game.
Yeah. Corrina, on the last one to finish.
Deaf by Film at Deaf by Film Pod says, one of Bale's best roles and a classic of a movie. And I agree. And it's 5 golden stars.
Great. Well, guys, quick sign off to tell the people listening where we can find you online.
You can find me on at Corrina. That's CORRINA twice. And also Bechtel Test Fest is on at Bechtel Test Fest. Google it if you're not sure how to spell it because I can't read it off right now. But Bechtel Test Fest. Follow us and spread the word.
And Sarah?
You can find me at Cookie and Screen or at Movies Weekends, which is Movies on Weekends Twitter, or at Central Picture H, which is where I market under the at Picture Houses umbrella.
Gosh, that was a cacophony of Twitter handles there. Thank you very much, guys. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. You were just listening to the latest episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. Thank you to Brendan Russell for his sublime editing skills. Mighty people for the tunes you can hear right now. Please do come to iTunes and find us, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod and our website, flixwatcher.tv.